Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. An absolute pleasure to be here. Pleasure to have you guys listening. And I'm here with my boy, Road Dog. Road Dog, you there, bud?
I'm here, buddy. Loud and live.
What's happening, man? Let's get stuck into this, bud. I think we got a big one here. You got some questions for me? If you do, hit me.
I do, and actually, I got a couple cool ones here because a little bit different, right? Nothing tactical on this first question. This is just somebody generally curious, and I'll just hit you with it. Who are your biggest mentors, or who have been some of the biggest mentors or coaches that have had the biggest impact on the man, the myth, the legend, Karl Bryan? Besides
Tony Robbins and Dan, I think there's a lot of them, like some new school guys and whatnot. But I'm going to go Tony Robbins, Dan Kennedy, and then I'm going to say new school. I'm going to say Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone. So there you go. So 4 of them, my man.
Interesting. And what's the biggest from each one of those guys? I'm totally putting you on the spot here today, dude. I love it. Like of all of those guys, first off, like each one, like what's obviously Tony, I'm a quote machine for that dude as well, because he is an absolute, I believe between him and actually Dan Sullivan, I believe it all comes back to those guys when it comes to coaching. But what's like one of the biggest pieces that you've ever taken? Is there like a quote or something from Tony Robbins that is just always on your brain?
Yeah, they're like you, man. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. In fact, I listened to him for probably 45 minutes yesterday, and it would be over the course of the week. If I didn't listen to Tony Robbins 2 to 5 times a week, I'd be surprised. Sometimes for a shorter period of time, sometimes for longer. Those listening, I would highly encourage you. They say, your mind's your enemy. If you're behind, when you're in your mind, you're behind enemy lines, so to speak. I believe that you should be much like grass or, the flowers, you've got to feed it. Anywho, so I believe that feeding your mind, Tony Robbins, Dan Kennedy, and these types of guys would be an incredible undertaking. So what would I say? Best bit of advice from Tony Robbins, I would say 2 things. One, progress equals happiness. So if you just look at your own life, you will find that, let's just say there's all these different areas. There's financial, there's career, relationship with your wife, relationship with your kids, relationship with your extended family. Maybe you're a little bit younger, maybe you're going through school, maybe your kids are going through school. What you're going to find is when you look at your life and you break it up into these different areas, there'll be areas that you feel really confident about and you feel great, and then there's going to be areas of your life where it's not so fascinating, right? Like there's a good chance if your business is thriving and you're kicking ass and taking names, there's a decent chance that the relationship with your family isn't as good as would it otherwise be. And that's not in any way to insinuate that you can't do both at the same time. But my experience and what I've, seen after, interviewing and speaking to, I don't know how many, but 100,000 business owners at this stage, a lot of the time, do you know what I mean? Like where there's the separation between it. But anyways, when you look at your career, you look at your business, if it's growing, if you feel progress, you're going to feel happiness in and around your business. And then if you're not feeling progress within your business, you could have, obviously a lack of. And the crazy thing is that it can be like from day to day, it can go, up and down. But anyway, so I just say progress equals happiness. The areas of your life where you're feeling great, if a relationship with your kids right now, you feel amazing about it, if you really broke it down, I think you'd be able to find that there has been progress over the last short period of time. So I think that is hugely valuable advice. And then the second thing that I would give you from Tony Robbins would be 3 words: state, story, strategy. And if I were to expand on that, and what does that mean? What does it look like? Let's say, again, an example that Tony Robbins will give you is that, okay, so somebody is looking to lose weight. What do? They go hit the internet, they buy a book, they buy a program, they pay somebody. Effectively, what they're doing is they're looking for a strategy. So it might be the keto diet. Back in the day, it was the Atkins diet. It might be, becoming a vegan, becoming a vegetarian, cutting out, meat and this sort of thing. So really what that is that's strategy. Okay. Well, rather than go, and then, okay, so then they lose weight or they don't lose weight, and it's like, well, why didn't it work? And then they go pay a different person or buy a different program or go on a different diet. And it's like significantly more important than the strategy is the next word, which is story. Okay, so what's the story that you're telling yourself? So there's people that say, oh, I'm big boned, or, my mom was fat, my dad was fat, so I'm fat. It's just the way it is, which is total horsepucky. Or I lost weight one time, and now I lost weight one time, and then it all came back. Screw that, not doing it again, type of stuff. So it's this story. You need to correct the story, and then significantly, so you can understand how all of a sudden you just, like, when you are damned and determined, you can pretty much accomplish anything. Which brings us to the third word, which is state. So in a determined, hungry, just in a state of total intestinal fortitude, there's almost nothing on this planet that you can't accomplish. And most certainly with a certain amount of time and training, et cetera, depending upon what it was that you were trying to accomplish. So if you think about the person trying to lose weight, why, or somebody trying to quit smoking, why when they go to the doctor and they get the diagnosis of lung cancer, can the 25-year, 40-year smoker magically stop instantly? And it's the state. And then the story is, significantly changed. And frankly, the strategy means nothing at that stage. It's just, damn well, that's it. It's over. Never again. I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. Right? So anyway, so state, story, strategy. Again, you think about it from your coaching business. The strategy, okay, I'm going to run live events, and I'm going to cold call, and I'm going to get on Instagram, and I'm going to get on Facebook, and I'm going to get on LinkedIn, etc. Those are strategies. The story needs to be that I'm going to work this out come hell or high water, and the state that you put yourself in makes it happen. And quite frankly, I believe that these 3 words are the reason why when somebody has been successful at something else, like whenever I'm bringing on a new business coach or, working with somebody and getting them to accomplish something, I always try to find people who have been successful at something else. Okay, so let's say somebody was a star hockey player, somebody was a star football player, somebody was a, grade A student all the way through. You'll find that people that are successful at one thing tend to be successful at others, and the reason are those 3 words: state, story, strategy. There's just a different level, a different state that they put themselves in to get there. So what I would say is that state is 95%. Story is 4%, and then the strategy is 1%, but the 1% drives the other 99, right? So, but it's absolutely stinking critical that you get yourself in this right state of mind. You want your coaching business, say you're making $100 grand now, you want to get to 250, 500 grand. If you go state, story, and then strategy, you'll be significantly better off. So anyways, a little bit, that's what I would say. Those 2 bits of advice from Tony Robbins: progress equals happiness, and those 3 words: state, story, strategy, amongst many, many, many other things that I have learned and taken from Tony Robbins, because there have been plenty of them. In fact, I named my daughter Sage after Tony Robbins' wife, which is a little bit crazy, but no need to take a restraining order out, Tony, if you're listening, but do love the guy. He's a friggin' rock star. But those are the 2, Road Dog.
I don't know about the restraining order, but it's funny. I would have thought when you said 3 words, the ones that came into my mind, you want to guess?
Focus, meaning, do.
Success leaves clues.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you go.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
okay.
funny I look at, for me, the one that's really resonated in my brain from Tony Robbins a lot in the last little bit, especially, you get what you tolerate.
Yeah. Oh, I love that too. Yeah.
Like
But
that is the ultimate one. But hey, now
well,
speaking of tolerating and all that sort of stuff, and now switching back to coaching, as much as you and I could talk about Tony Robbins for like days. Um, when it comes to business owners, because again, I get asked, and so I'll ask you two questions in one here, because every single week, like not a week goes by where I don't speak with new coaches or prospective people looking at becoming business coaches. And they always ask me, Christian, like, is there a specific niche that I need to be focused in on? Is there something there? And you and I, we've talked about this. I'll leave that one for you, but to kind of start that off, is it even beyond a specific niche? And is there more of a personality trait, if you will, of that business owner that you would look at? Is there something there where you're like, man, I don't know anything about this business or this industry, but this person's mindset or their personality is leading you to be like wanting to work with them, and at the same time also raising the red flag going, yeesh, I'm going to run.
yep. Okay. I've done that a few times. Yeah. So I would say, look, absolutely. Like hunger. If you were to say, okay, break it down. What's the difference between a business owner that goes to 1 million and surpasses it, and the business owner that doesn't get anywhere near it and ends up giving up? One word: hunger. Or what separates the Serena Williams and the Roger Federer, who have more money and accomplishments and the trophies, and known as potentially the two greatest tennis players of all time, and they still, like, this morning, Roger Federer woke up with all his dough, all the accolades, beautiful family, everything else, and at 5 a.m. he's hitting tennis balls. And if ever there was a tennis player that could take Monday off, it's Roger Federer, but he doesn't. So it's like, well, what the heck drives this? Like, how does he keep going? Why does he keep going? And it's just one word: hunger. And it'll be the same for Serena Williams. It was the same for Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Wayne Gretzky. The list goes on. So if I'm looking for a character trait, hunger is it times 10. But I think the question is niche. Is that right? So if somebody's asking, though, what niche should I pick? Is that correct?
Well, 100%, dude. Like every single week, it's just like, is there, because everyone's thinking, like, is there one specific one that's better than others? I get that every week.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what I would do. Okay, so this is the process that I would encourage somebody to undertake to find their niche. Once again, conveniently, 3 words. There's power in that, not so much even accidental, but it's experience. Okay, so where have you had experience? Expertise. What are you good at? And then the third one is, where do you have some passion? So, like, as an example, let's say that, like, I don't know that I'm a car guy, but I like cars, right? So if you were a car guy or a car gal, picking a niche, you don't necessarily have to go straight into automobile sales, let's say, but there's a niche within that. Like, there are lots of companies out there where they deal with collectible cars. Like there's, museums that have, 35 cars, and a guy owns it and he needs to drive traffic and drive customers and, have events every quarter, etc. So, pick a niche where you feel a large amount of passion. So, and then you could drill down a little bit even further from that. But as a rule, this is what I would find, right? So, and like, there's a lot of folks out there, what they do is, like, say they look after, like, female business owners, which is totally fine. But you as a rule, and once again, this stuff is gray, not black and white, you'd have a lot more success. You wouldn't have more success. It's just, it would be easier to have success if you picked a niche. And let's just hypothetically pull dentists out of fresh air. Okay. So, and one of the reasons why, and I drive a lot of traffic on the internet, right? Like on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. To go to LinkedIn, to go to Facebook and drive traffic to female entrepreneurs is you know what I mean, like a mug's game. You're not going to make, you are not going to be able to, well, I don't say you won't, but you're going to have a hell of a time making that work. versus I'm looking for dentists that have been on LinkedIn for X amount of time and this age group earning, their practices over $1 million, driving traffic to that niche. You're going to have a significantly easier and better time. So you know what I mean? Like, so versus go or, like Christian business owners is another thing that I've seen many, many a times, right? Where as a rule, this isn't the kind of niche that I personally would drive you towards. You could end up there and that's great. And if this is what you're highly passionate about and you could put forth your argument, I could be convinced for an individual, absolutely. But if you were to ask me for my advice and I were to be directing you and I were to be the one at the controls without any pushback, we would end up in something along the lines of, again, a dentist, or like my niche are business coaches, right? So if you are my client, there's a ridiculously good chance that you're a business coach, but I've also got probably 100, like we have accountants all over the world that use our system. We have business brokers. We've got folks that own networking organizations, right? So like the equivalent of a BNI. But if you think about that, fundamentally, they're ridiculously similar to business coaches. So I've got business coaches and then, 3 niches in and around it. But predominantly, and when I drive traffic, I'm, like business coaches, business consultants are the folks that I'm looking for. So if I were to be looking for a niche, but to make sure everybody heard this, expertise, experience, passion is what I get you to fill out. And this will be, where you'll end up in the right niche. And just going and saying, okay, just specifically dentists or specifically chiropractors are like the best niches. I'm just that's not, my experience is that every single business owner on the planet needs coaching. So it's not like dentists hire coaches quicker than chiropractors and chiropractors quicker than, physiotherapists and on it goes. So I'm picking a niche. That's the process that I'm basically undertaking.
Cool. It's funny. It's as another Tony Robbins, phrase jumps into my head: "Get in your head and you're dead." Speaking of getting in your head, here's a great one. Literally every week as well. Every week. I name my business. Like I realize people love spending time on logos and stuff like that, but what do you say to people when it's like, well, Carl, what kind of a name should I give my business?
Yeah, actually, and to be honest with you, I think this is a fabulous question. In that, again, before you just go and pick a name out of fresh air and spend, hours and hours on your logo, which people tend to do in the business card, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I would say is if I was to name, and once again, this is not black and white stuff. It's gray on steroids. But, okay, so what I would direct somebody to do is basically make it 3 words, okay? Or maybe I'll show you this. Think of a professional sport, and you're going to find that it's got 3 words brought back to an acronym, okay? So National Basketball Association, National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, Professional Golfers Association. So it's like 3, and then they bring it back to PGA, NBA, NHL, etc. Okay, so this doesn't happen by accident. There's power in 3. So I would name your company. I would use 3 words. And once again, if you were able to buy, like I own Focused.com, right? So fabulous name. It's 1 word. I mean, this is a good name, but again, we're going to rise up above that and assume that you don't own like a domain name along those lines, because there's what I'm trying to get at, a lot of factors that could come into this potentially. 3 words. 1 would be emotion. Okay, so my word is leader. All of my companies basically start with the name leader. So number 1 is a word that evokes emotion. Maybe for you it's momentum, mayhem, something along those lines, but a word that evokes emotion to those that hear it. Number 2 would be basically what it is that you do, coaching, consulting in this instance, right? And then the 3rd word would be positioning. Okay, so a couple of, like 2 of my companies, I'll give you the examples: Leader Global Consulting. Okay, so leader is the word with emotion, global is positioning, and then consulting is what we do. Other company, Leader Publishing Worldwide. And then I have Leader International Holdings as my holding company. So basically, you can see, but what I really, well, here's what I think I would be taking out of that more than anything else is a positioning. When I named my company Leader Publishing Worldwide, it was me in my garage getting started. Okay, and it was pretty much the same. It was in my sister's basement, Leader Global Consulting, right? So, like the global, international, worldwide, most folks that own coaching companies as a rule, or actually, no, I take that back. Most people starting a company, right, in a one-man band, a one-gal band, they don't feel like the word worldwide or global really comes into it, which, by the way, may not, and that's totally fine. But personally, I like to think big. Maybe that comes back to that hunger and that, the state, the expectations that I have for myself. I've had success in other things, and I damn well expect to have success in my career and with my business. And then they come back to LGC, LPW, right? Much like the professional sporting. And by the way, they also have a silhouette of somebody doing the sport. So you picture Major League Baseball, it's a guy swinging swinging a bat. Basketball is somebody dribbling the ball, right? But anyway, so that's so 3 words, and come up with that word of, again, that emotional word. I think that's also important. I think that should be not necessarily one that others think. Like, I still remember where I was when I heard the definition of leader. Like, when I heard the word, it was basically the way it was described to me as turning vision into reality. And I just heard that, and I was like, wow. And I don't know, maybe I've just always kind of seen myself as a leader, but I just heard that word, and everything I do, like, leader is the name and color is blue. And I'll be 90, and I would be amazed if I start a company, grow a company, unless I were to acquire it, I suppose. I'd be naming it leader in some way, shape, or form, and then my color would be blue. So that's what I say to that. Actually, now I want to continue with that, and I think this is also a little. Here's some non-textbook advice for you, and some advice that might help. Again, if you're looking to grow a coaching business, in some cases, and again, a little bit outside the box, but if I were to own a coaching business, there's a pretty darn good chance that I wouldn't call it coaching. Okay? The reason why is that the average, if my clients were business owners, very importantly, okay? So I would probably call my business something, I'd probably go marketing, maybe consulting, but like marketing is an example. So Leader Marketing International, as an example. I could totally, if I were to start a company tomorrow coaching business owners, there's a good chance I'd come up with a name like that. And instead of putting coaching in there, I put marketing in there, for the simple reason that I think people hear coaching and then it gives away too early what it is that you do. And it's a bit like when you meet somebody and you say, I'm a realtor, immediately they go into beta mode because they know what a realtor does. They know realtors, maybe they were a realtor in their past, what have you, and it kind of just shuts down a lot of what you say the second after they hear realtor. It can be skewed because they've already got these preconceived notions around it. So anyway, so marketing is an example. My personal belief is that business owners wake up in the morning, they look at their phone, they look at their inbox, they look at their website, and think, I've got to be able to make this damn thing work. And the word in their head that they use is marketing. So as an example, again, so what did I say? Leader Marketing International would be an example. And then what I would do would be coaching. And by the way, I'd be helping them in and around marketing, but that would just be one facet of it. So with your coaching business versus, then you go, okay, yeah, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, coaching is what I do. So if my niche were coaches, then I believe that coaching is would be a great name, right? So Leader Coaching International, if I was trying to bring in coaches and turn people into coaches. So again, and for the average bear, that takes a little bit of getting your head around. But if I was doing coaching for small business owners, I believe that marketing is a better word to put in front of them because this is what they're trying to work out. And it sounds more of a solution, whereas coaching is something that, just giving away a little bit early what it is that they do. And it can just put a little bit of a barrier in between you and getting that coaching deal done. So So that's there's some outside the box thinking there, buddy. And
Well,
so
I know
how we do my
my,
coaching.
my to-do list just got bigger this week. Apparently, renaming my company just came up, so that's cool. That's gotta. Anyways, I always appreciate you adding to that. That's great. Hey, we talk about live events a lot in terms of it being an unbelievable way to quickly build a coaching business. And so here's some questions. Obviously, sometimes you get some people that are a little bit newer to the business and whatever. So a question that I get quite a bit as well is, if you're doing a live event, like somebody who doesn't feel that they're a natural marketer, and they get asked some questions, like, do you have any sort of tips or some hacks, if you will, in terms of handling live events? And because I know, the one tip that I got once that I absolutely swear by is, I typically never wear a watch except when I'm doing live events. And the reason I do that is because whatever podium or table or whatever I have in front of me, I always start off my presentation by taking off my watch and laying it flat in front of me. So that way I can sort of keep sort of a sense of time. What sort of tips and tricks do you have? And especially when it comes to those people that really don't feel that they're naturally gifted when it comes to marketing.
Okay, well, yes. Okay, I think that traditional marketing is something that needs a good hard look at. Again, a conversation be much more a whole lot longer than we're going to have here on this podcast today, right? But I would break it down. So somebody says, Karl, help me market my business. I don't know what the hell it is that they do, like in this instance, by the way, what the hell it is they do, what they're trying to accomplish. I would go to 3 words: hook, story, and then offer. Okay. So, but really where I would start is hook. Here's the most underutilized hack for marketing is you've got to come up with a hack. So I'll give you an example rather than just waffle on about it. When I started traditional internet marketing, my first, it was a membership site, but really what's important is how I got people there. And my first hook was how I earned $187,000 in my first 9 months online as a coach, right? So I drove a lot of traffic. I had some joint ventures, put 1,000 people into a membership site at $100 a month, right? So now, let's say that I converted 10% of the audience. Now I had 90% of these folks that put their hand up that didn't convert. So I logically thought, okay, well, boom, I've got this up. I built it up. I was looking after the folks in the membership site. Well, I don't want to let those 90% of these leads just die on the vine. So the next step was I did another, and it became a membership site. But once again, what it was that I did and the deliverable, the fulfillment is totally secondary to how I got them there. So critical. The follow-up was how I generated 250 hot new coaching leads in 90 days using Google. I'm going back a number of years here, so I got to think about it. But anyway, so that was the follow-up, right? So yeah, how I generated 250 hot new coaching leads in 90 days using Google. And you could imagine that if you were a business coach and you read that, there's a pretty good chance that you're, lobbing in and wanting to check that out. Notice again, I didn't put coaching in front of them. I put a hook in front of them, right? Maybe another example is like when you work with us, the hook that we have created for our coaches that they use ridiculously successfully is that I can find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. And remember, I didn't put coach in front of them. I put that. And what do you think the business owner says to that? What do you even Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, I don't care who you put me in front of, when I spit out that elevator pitch, we'll call it, that hook. And by the way, you need to do it with some mojo, because if you do it monotone, lame ass, shoulders down, you know what I mean, without a little bit of, we'll just call it mojo, there's already going to be a little bit of doubt there. Like, how the hell do you do that? Without some mojo, there's going to be a hell of a lot more of it, right? So, and how do you get that mojo? How do you get good at it? Practice, baby, practice, right? So that's the hook. And then, by the way, we literally created software. around creating that process for our coaches. I mean, I could show you on a napkin, I could show you on a piece of paper, I could show you with spreadsheets, or I could do it with the software. At the end of the day, the process works no matter how or where you do it. But we created the software to legitimize it, and then the software spits out a roadmap. 2.0 version will be out here very shortly. But anyway, so we've got that. So you could see how that hook, right, Road Dog, when you put that in front of somebody, I mean, they are panting, going, let me at it. And this comes back to before you create your hook, you've got to do a little bit of homework and work out what is it that business owners are actually looking for, right? So, and business owners are looking, no matter what the heck they say, they're looking to make more money. They want more cash, they want more money, they want more profits, and they want their marketing to work, right? So anywho, so that's what I'd say to that. So there's the hook, and then, by the way, the story is basically you backing up the hook. And by the way, Russell Brunson teaches this better than I will ever be able to do. But the next one is story, where you're just explaining what it is. Like, I'm going to find you $100,000. These are the 8 areas that we're going to look in. This is, yada yada yada. This is the way it all pans out, and this is how I can prove what it is that I do. And then, in fact, actually, so my story, like, how could I find somebody $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising? I've got somebody on the phone. I've got somebody face to face. Part of my story, as in step 2, would be, okay, well, let me give you an example. So if you were a business owner and you made $100,000 last year and you had 20% margins, and by the way, when I sit with a business owner, they're going to tell me they have 50, 60% margins. In about 30 seconds of me speaking to them, I'm going to be able to explain to them that our margins are nowhere near 50, 60%, that they're significantly closer to 20%. This is a good thing because you just disrupted somebody, and part of selling something is disrupting them versus just kumbaya, jumping up and down and clapping hands and motivating them. You need to take them to an ugly place and then bring them out of it. But anywho, so they made $100,000. They've got 20% margins, and then I'm going to sit down with them. I'm not going to sell anything. We're not going to hire anybody. We're not going to teach them anything. We're going to go through their expenses ruthlessly. Anything that doesn't need to be there, and there'll be plenty of them, we cancel, right? Cancel their credit cards and make them re-sign up, and then every automated payment would need to be actively, re-engaged, right? So the whole idea, though, is we're ruling out expenses, and then anything that can be negotiated became negotiated. An example, again, if they, paying rent, we'd go to their landlord. But whatever it took, we would go and, find a way to get their margins to 30%. I'm going to tell you, you could do it ridiculously quickly with most business owners because they haven't looked at their expenses the way that I just described in literally years. You go through that, you get their margins from 20 to 30%. Okay, so on the surface, unfortunately, I got grade 8 math skills. You made $100,000 last year. We go from 20 to 30. That appears to be a 10% improvement. I am smart enough to work out that 10% of 100,000 is 10 grand. I'm like, holy shit, this is not bad. We've only been working together a very short period of time, and I've literally hours, and I've already made these guys $10,000. High five! Wow. Let's say I'm $2,000 a month. I'm $24,000 a year as a business coach. Well, I'm almost halfway there, and we're 2 hours into the relationship. I mean, this has got to be pretty good, right? This should be high fives all around. Well, see, that's not what happened. It's not a 10% improvement. When you go from 20 to 30%, that is a 50% improvement, not 10. Okay, because 10 would be 20 to 22. 20 would be 20 to 24. 30 would be 20 to 26, 40 would be 20 to 28, and 20 to 30 is therefore a 50% increase. So if we go back to our numbers 2 seconds ago, they made $100,000, they got 20% margins. I've been with them for 2 hours and I've already made them $50,000. Boom. This is how you get coaching clients. This is how you find somebody $100,000. And by the way, we sat down. You could do this in about 30 seconds with a spreadsheet. Okay, so you've still got 44 minutes to sell them something, right? So anywho, so that would be an example. That would be part of my story. And then the third piece is offer. In this instance, okay, so let's say that Road Dog, you own the local restaurant, you're the realtor, you're the mortgage broker, you're the finance guy, and I'm closing you, then it's my offer. And then I say, look, clearly we should be working together. I know that you know this stuff, but knowing and doing are two very, very different things. Instead of knowing this stuff, let's start doing this stuff. The same way that you want to lose weight, you just got to get off your fat ass and go for a walk, go for a jog, stop eating, whites and sugars, etc., and you're going to lose some weight. But you don't do it without the personal trainer. You don't do it without the spreadsheet. You don't do it without the accountability. I'm going to be that for you. I'm $2,000 a month. That's going to be 24 grand a year. As you can see, we've already shown you how we're going to be able to make you 50 grand this year by looking through your credit card statements tomorrow. Let's get this show on the road. Road Dog, let's rock and roll. What's your credit card number? Fantastic. Let's go. So then that's basically my offer. I'm now putting coaching in front of you, but I've followed that process. And the hook is where we started, because Road Dog, the question is, again, I'm not a natural marketer. Can you make this a little bit easier for me? To paraphrase, well, instead of, going and downloading XYZ program or buying into this, buying into that, just take those three words and the world could be a significantly easier place for you. And really importantly, when you do it for yourself, the way that I've lined it out in terms of for a business coach, you do the exact same thing for the local business. So
awesome.
That's what I'd be saying to the non-natural marketer.
And obviously, like anything else, dude, it's just putting in the reps, right? Like for you to walk in, like you have done, how many live events have you done?
Yeah, over 400 local live events. Yep. And Phil, by the way, not only have I done over 400 local live events, I filled 400 local live events.
Yeah, again, it's just you've put in the reps. So for you, they're really, I'm sure you could still get questions where you're going to get stumped, but it's pretty freaking rare at this stage of the game because you've put in the reps, you've done it, you weren't afraid to suck.
Well, you know what I did back in the day. I don't even know if you know this. So I used to, and I was just trying, I was just that guy that was gonna make it work. I didn't. The truth is, looking back now, I didn't. If I had any idea how little I knew, right, I probably wouldn't have been so ballsy, we'll call it. But I used to run a live event, and I used to say I will solve any. I can't remember exact wording, but I said I will solve any marketing problem on the spot. So people would come, and I'm not talking. Like there was definitely some newbies and some lightweight marketers, but there was also some very impressive audience or very impressive folks in some of these audiences, and I'd be lying to say anything other than I crap my pants big time to get in there and do it. But at the end of the day, man, like what you just said, it's just I never got stumped. There was definitely harder questions than others, and maybe some that looking back wasn't the perfect advice or the right advice or what have you, but I got to tell you that never once could I tell you that I was on stage doing this and that in my head was, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this? You know what I mean? Like, which hole can I crawl into and get out of here? But going back, and I didn't know this 3-step formula back then. This is years ago, well over a decade. I didn't know the hook story offer, right? But really, that was a hook. Right? I was trying to fill these rooms. I needed new and different, and I was experimenting. I was doing the reps. Do you know what I mean? But it was rep number 9 and 10. I was pushing myself and trying to get clever, which, by the way, totally shamelessly stolen from Tony Robbins, because how he got his start, which, by the way, is in Vancouver, Canada, how he got his start, he guaranteed to cure any phobia on the spot, right? And then again, and it got radio, and viral, right? Before viral was viral, and people were calling in, and psychiatrists are calling in, going, "You're a charlatan, you're full of crap." Well, this was all amazing because this got him PR on steroids, and lo and behold, a room that would, logically fit 100 people, he had to yam 1,000 people, and they were all there because they wanted to see this, right? They wanted to see him do this up and live. And if you hear him tell the story, it didn't go all that great. But what did go amazing is that, he knew how to market himself at a very, very high level, and people started to know who Tony Robbins was. And the infomercial came after that, and the rest is, as they say, history. So put
Much
yourself
like
out
the
there.
legend that is Karl Bryan, the rest is also history. It's funny how, look at all of these parallels. It's as if you and Tony are just twins. You're like you're like the movie Twins too, actually. So it works out really well.
There we go. Exactly.
You are the Danny DeVito to the Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is.
Wow, beautiful. There you go. Well, what a great way to start my day. I love it. Danny DeVito here coming at you.
Could be worse. I'm sure I've called you worse. Anyway, so I think we'll leave it at that, dude. Like, that was amazing. It's funny. I actually, as I was scrolling my Instagram feed this morning, which I know you're always on Instagram and Snapchat because you're hip like that with the kids. Phil Mickelson quote: "Every day I don't practice is another day till I'm great."
I love it. Oh my God. That, my friend, is a great way to end this sucker, because I hope everybody is listening to give it that to me again.
Now I got to pull it. Every day I don't practice is another day till I'm great.
Love it. Oh my God, that is good. All right, my friend. But anyway, so look, that's great. And of course, folks, we appreciate the question. So again, don't be shy. And again, you want to fire in questions. There's multiple. A lot of you guys are on my list and whatnot with the Six Figure Coach magazine. You can go to karlbryan.com, load them in there. Pretty easy guy to find. So if you guys want to fire through some more questions, we always appreciate them. And when you're sending through a question, again, the more detailed you can be, without doubt, the better, and much, much more appreciated. Sometimes, again, this stuff is, the questions, I understand, the nature of it and why that would be, but the more specific you could be and more detailed with the question, is, the more detailed answer I'm going to be able to be. Because I'll give you a detailed answer, but sometimes I might be going in a slightly different direction than what exactly you might be asking. So try to get detailed with those questions, but we super appreciate them. And Road Dog, my man, much appreciated, dude. We'll be seeing you next week. And those of you listening, if you can, if you like the podcast, this was helpful in any way, if you guys can share it, recommend it, take a photo of it, and put it on your Instagram, your Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., and tell them that they should be listening also. That would be super duper appreciated. But until next time, appreciate you guys. Look forward to hearing some questions, and we will see you then.
Make it a great week, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.